the narrative was beginning to be shaped. Like he was here with the intent of committing this crime with a knife. He planned it because he got beat up the week before. And that just doesn't really track with what's happening right now.
So I'm just going to provide my perspective on why it became somewhat of a black or white issue. One, because of the immediate demonization of this kid by basically saying that, acting as if it was premeditated, even though even in that initial report, there were people who stated that he said, "Don't touch me. If you touch me," they was like, "Well, why not?" It's like, "Well, touch me and find out." Which shows that once again, they had opportunity to walk away and they chose not to walk away. He did not react until they touched him. And then coupled with the later on information about the fact that these two had a history of bullying him anyways. Now, I'm going to say history because more than once, that's a history. So since previously, and I'm pretty sure it's going to come out even further, that they probably were school bullies, and at this point, it becomes, well, when do we get to defend ourselves? We had somebody who was carrying Skittles and some tea, and he wasn't considered self-defense. So when do we get to defend ourselves? How many times do we have to get punched? How many times do we have to sit here and just take whatever abuse is being thrown at us? Do we have to, they threw my phone. Okay, so my phone is an object. Okay, fine. I don't have to hit you. I don't have to respond back to that. But I also warned you, don't touch me, and you touch me. So why am I not expected to react when you touch me? You've been warned. I'm tired of turning the other cheek. I know myself personally. I ain't turning no other cheek so you can hit me again in the other cheek, And so I think we're in that age now of where you fuck around and you found out. And as much as callous as this sound, he found out. He got warning. And he still proceeded because he didn't expect any consequences. This was the consequences of his action. We're so quick to say, oh, but people do this and black people do that because they already immediately view us as violent individuals, when in reality, that's not the case. That's what the media shows because that benefits them to show that. Whereas if you go to all FBI stats and so forth, you actually see who the biggest perpetrators are. But you don't know that because most posts will only throw out that 1350 stat without saying that 1350 is actually arrest. And then they don't point out the exoneration is at actually 53%. So that means half of those 50 were exonerated, even if they were arrested. Now, I will say this. I feel terrible that a life was lost because I always feel terrible when a life is lost. But at the same time, I'm with this guy until you prove me otherwise. This young boy, this young man who had a shining career, he was an athlete. He was an excellent student, and now you out here trying to paint him like he was a thug. You over here trying to find, not you, but the media over here trying to find every picture on social media where it looked like he was doing something negative to paint him this way. When you clearly have pictures of this young white man, I'm going to call man because they call our children men and women when we're under the age of 18, but up to 23, they'll still call a white person a white boy that's 23, a boy instead of a man. But with that being said, we are tired. So they raised money, $250,000 or more. And there was an uproar like, oh, they're raising money for their killer. Well, shit, you raised $2 million for Kyle Rittenhouse. And he was for sure a killer. But you know what, though? That was white on white crime, I guess. So I guess it didn't matter. But, still life was taken. But same for George Zimmerman. They raised money for him. So everybody got money raised for them. But it's a problem for us to raise money for this young boy. It's a problem for us to do it. It's no problem when you do it, but it's a problem for us to do it. And then there's the immediate slander of his family, like, oh, they squandered the money on the house or they bought a new car with his money. Well, how the fuck you know what the hell they bought? Are you in their pockets? Are you at their house? Or are you just sensationalizing the story because certain people will most likely believe these tropes because they want to, because they already believe the worst because the media always portray that. Even the headlines aren't correct. So that's where I'm going to stand. I will stand with him and his GoFundMe. I do support his GoFundMe because, hey, at the end of the day, if we can't defend ourselves when we're actively being harmed, when we're actively being hurt, then why in the hell can you defend yourself when you're not even being hurt? And I mean you as in these white people who are actively going to seek somebody to hurt them with the intent to harm and to hurt. But all of a sudden it's self-defense when they get defended back. So once again, I'm sorry that there's a life loss in this situation, but fuck around, found out. It's just callous, but it's true. Consequences.
I usually reserve judgment on these kind of things. I wait for the investigation and police report to be convicted. I definitely don't trust the wisdom of the crowd because depending on what's happening, people will become forensic specialists, crime scene investigators. It gets really really weird. So yeah, I just like to wait for these things to kind of play out. Like we said, the different disinformation is a huge problem in these kind of cases. Everybody talked like they was there or they know somebody that was there. Their cousin was there. It went from a knife. Now it's we find out it's a cleat cleaner. So other details are going to come out. But I think we need to not be triggered. And that's one thing as Black people why we get trolled because we are. Everybody knows we're easily triggered and trolled, and that's why we get played a lot of times. So let's wait for the investigation. Let's wait for the trial to come out. I can't say when I heard, oh, he had a knife at the track meet. I was like, well, that's kind of odd. That seems a bit weird. So that immediately sent up a red flag. So that's why I say, look, let's wait for this to kind of play out and let the investigation work its way through, and let's relax. Let's get to the facts and let those things come out.
Yes, thank you so much, Delvin. I'm so glad that you went ahead of me with saying that. So that you said it so eloquently and smoothly that I don't even have to repeat it. I'll be honest, there's a reason, because what you said, Delvin, is the reason why I haven't been paying attention. I don't have a lot of bandwidth. I just don't. Like, if you're talking about looking for stories to be outraged about, I'm sure there's some that happen every day. And I kind of wonder like why certain stories get certain attention, I guess. And so kudos to all of you guys who did pay attention, and maybe your voice was heard in regards to the reduction of bail. So there was some positive outcome to your outrage. But by and large, aside from the interest that I think we show in these types of cases, I don't know, I guess I'm becoming more cynical. Maybe that's just really what it is. You know what I mean? But I love the point that Delvin made, because more information, that's why I kept on harping in the beginning, right? Like, we hear these stories, this person said this and this person, and before you know it, you don't even know what to believe. Like, I genuinely right now I'm sitting here because I was asking earnestly, like, I read one thing. I get that we can't believe the news anymore, so that's a problem to a certain extent. Because as I'm looking and y'all talking, I'm looking up knife, track, cleaner. I find nothing. There's nothing in the, I guess, whatever the accepted news media that, I guess how I do my normal search. So to Delvin's point, there's going to be more information that will come out. And so I get why we as Black people, PTSD, trauma response all the time. But I love that Delvin said that, because I'm just not going to fall for that every time. I'm not saying that I don't care in that way. I do generally, but I have to be a better steward. I care about me more. And so because of that, I'm going to just exercise some patience and wait till there's some information to come out. But the other thing is like, if I can't do nothing about it for real, or if I'm not going to do anything about it for real, then what the fuck does my outrage really do for real, for real? That was one of the questions that I asked myself. Like, it's like, I get that we be outraged. I feel like we think that that's going to do something for real. And I'm real enough with myself to know that it's not. So unless I'm actively going to do something, let's say if it's criminal justice, am I donating to some organization? Am I volunteering? Am I spending time? Am I consistently? And I can acknowledge and be honest with y'all that I'm not. I do my thing, but in no way, shape, or form is it enough for me to feel like I'm doing enough, right? Let's be honest, for real, for real. So it's just kind of like, I get it. It is important to bring light to it. It is important to have conversations about it. There is conversations about bail practice. I think overall, as it relates to the practice of bail and how it's used punitively, I think that's an issue. There's also an issue around like if there is some, trolling, or not trolling, but bullying going on. I think that's certainly an issue. And then obviously racism is a part of this too. But the funny thing is, if it were a Black boy who, because y'all love doing the whataboutisms too, right? And I hate that y'all do that all the time, because every circumstance is not going to be the same. I'm sorry, different states, different people. I get that we love to do that, but in the George Zimmerman situation, a Black boy died. So if you want to try to make it fair a little bit, I wonder how y'all would feel in regards to rush to judgment if it was a Black boy that died. Right? Would we want? So it's just funny because it just depends on whether or not you're going to stand on the side of, I guess, fairness. And I get that we try to do that when it comes to bail, but I don't think that we do that all the way. For real, for real. And so for me, I try to be as partial as possible until more information arises, which is why I think I'd make a good juror, but some of y'all would not. But anyways, not y'all specifically on the show, but way too many people on social media. If y'all got called to the stand to like testify, hey, could you be impartial about this case? Oh, yes, Your Honor, I can. Well, hold on. We have this tape from Clubhouse. Can you please hold on? You know
Is this you? Is this you?
Or Tia was on a podcast. Hold on. Is this you on the BLC pod, ma'am? So,
I would never be selected for a jury.